here. When I looked at the weather this morning and the forecast even the night before, I thought, oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off. So thank you for those who are joining us on Zoom, and thank you for those who braved the weather to be here tonight. Ash Wednesday is an important day for me, and I really didn't want to cancel tonight's worship. Part of the importance of Ash Wednesday for me comes from going to church with my mother. She used to take me out of school on Ash Wednesday morning, and we'd go to my home parish for the 10 o'clock service, and then eat a very simple breakfast of toast, maybe a little bit of jam, not too much butter on the toast though, just enough that it was in the center, not to the edge. That would have been too much for the beginning of Lent. A little bit of coffee, a little bit of tea. Eventually someone would scramble and find some juice for me, as I was the only kid there. And I didn't really understand the importance of Ash Wednesday at that time, but I knew that it was important because I got to miss school. So it must have been for a good reason. And being marked with the ashes seemed a little odd at first, but later became an important part of the ritual as I learned more about the day and more about Lent in general. This title on this slide came from part of my research for today's sermon. It jumped out at me as I read it. Part of me wondered why it was so shocking. Because isn't that part of what we should be doing already, stripping away the false to expose the truth? In this day of fake news and AI-generated imagery and story, shouldn't we already be working hard to strip away the false? And in this day of opinion, at times being touted more prevalently than fact, shouldn't we already be working hard to expose truth? But I think the fact that these words jumped out at me means that we might not be doing such a great job of those tasks, even if we know how important they are. Each year we read this bit of Matthew's version of the gospel, and I wonder in this sentence where the emphasis lies. It's one of those times where I wish that I had Cole's notes that sort of describe those things, or a director's notes if it was being turned into a movie. Where is the emphasis in this sentence? Are we really to be reticent in practicing our righteousness? Or are we to be slow to practice it before others? Maybe if we're righteous by ourselves, all alone, without interaction with others, then that would be okay. But honestly, it can't be. For being righteous really means that we're in right relationship with God and with each other. So you can't practice your righteousness alone. And are we not to expect some sort of benefit, some sort of reward for being in right relationship with God and each other? That can't be true. For I know that when I'm truly in right relationship with God and with other people, life becomes easier. Notice that I didn't say life becomes more aligned with what I want, but life becomes easier. Because it becomes easier for me to accept God's will. It becomes easier for me to make the decisions that benefit others, even if I struggle to accept them from my perspective. So then we're only left with this part of the sentence. Practicing righteousness will always be seen by someone because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And the reward, if righteousness is only practiced so that others can see it, not because of who we are as Christians, then that's where we begin to have the problem. This season of Lent encourages us to strip away the self-seeking motivations that we have, to strip away the false motivation of earthly reward when we trumpet our own goodness. Instead, we work in the season of Lent to expose the truth that our righteousness is truly alive when we have a deep and personal relationship with our God and with each other. Righteousness isn't about living life in a way that proves that we are the keepers of God's truth. Righteousness is about living in a deep respect for the dignity of every human being. I'd say also with a deep respect for the dignity of all creation. We strive to be righteous because God first loved us. God's story throughout the scriptures is a story of the relationship between God and God's people. And like any relationship, that story has its ups and downs. But in the end, we believe that God's love prevails. So we too try to have love prevail. Try to have our love for our God, our love for our neighbor, and our love for ourselves prevail over all things. If we truly live in love, then stripping away what is false is easy. If we truly live in love, exposing truth becomes simpler. So may our love and God's love guide us through the next 40 days of Lent as we strive to be in right relationship with one another and with our God. Amen.